Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Orhan Erdem. Welcome to the Rockford University Brownback seminar of the semester. I would like to start by thanking Rockford University, the philanthropy and alumni engagement, and everyone who joins us today, Christian, Paul, Yoandy, and Clay. So the Brownback series is organized by Professor Cabrera, Yoandy Cabrera, and Professor St. James and myself. We have visiting lecturer Clay Duffy with us today. The title of his presentation is Employee Engagement with Corporate-Based Health and Wellness Programs, a Multisite Multivariate Regression Analysis. Clay Duffy is a visiting professor at Purr School of Business at Rockford University. Additionally, he is a PhD candidate in the Education Leadership and Organizational Development Program at the University of Louisville. Please join me in welcoming Professor Clay Duffy. Clay, the stage is yours.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. I very much appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here, sharing what I think is some super fun stuff. Right? Are you guys able to see my screen? It's loading right now. Hold on. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'll get started here. I'm happy to be here and working with you guys on this project that I've been working on for probably about the last year and a half or so. With some of my colleagues at the University of Louisville, and it's employee engagement with corporate-based health and wellness programs, a multi-site, multivariate regression analysis. I'm the only one of the team here able to present today, but I do want to show some love to my colleagues. I'm doing work with Dr. Jamie Jennings, Dr. Brad Shuck, and Dr. Jason Imikis. All of them were some of my instructors and faculty members at my PhD program at the University of Louisville. They're all associate professors there. So I'm very thankful to them for working with me on this opportunity. And before we get started, before I really dig into what it is we're doing, I want to get behind the why a little bit, right? Why is this such an important topic? And why am I so excited to be here talking about this? And the fact of the matter is our employees are hurting, guys. There's a lot of different things that can influence employee health, employee engagement, and everything in between that. You know, whether it's issues with PTSD, issues with stress at home, issues with stress at work, this little thing that we call COVID, right? All these things that can be absolutely influencing an employee, right? Our employees are hurting, and it's on us, specifically as leaders and HRD scholars, to really take a look at this and look at how we can improve that and really make the workplace a meaningful and healthy environment for our people, right? So just to give you guys a little bit of like some statistics or some fun little tidbits of information pertaining to wellness programs here. $8 billion is the approximate annual worth of the employee wellness program or employee wellness industry, specifically employee wellness programs that are impacted or facilitated by companies themselves. Approximately 82% of large organizations offer corporate sponsored wellness programs, and then 53% of small organizations offer corporate sponsored wellness programs. And these are pretty good numbers. You know, especially that 82% for these large organizations. But we run into one big problem, and that's ultimately where this consulting opportunity came. This started as a consulting role and has now transitioned into a couple different manuscripts and scholarly work as well. But we run into one big problem. These programs are only utilized by approximately 20% of eligible employees. So employees who are eligible to engage with some of these programs or have this availability of whether it's a gym on site or a program that they're introducing for a month at the organization, they're only seeing approximately 20% participation. That is an incredibly low number, right? Especially for something that is supposed to be doing so much good and positively impacting the people that we have in our organizations. So what happened was we had an organization, and I'll get into the sample here in just a bit, an organization come to us and say, listen, we have all of these offerings. It's not that we're purposely neglecting our employees or just not offering anything to improve their well-being and focus and prioritize that wellness, but we're not getting any participation, and we're trying to figure out what it is that drives an employee's decision point or decision-making points to actively engage with these corporate sponsored wellness programs. So obviously, I've related this just to employees and the people around us in general, but I am in the field of human resource development, And what our field is specifically focused on is that continual success, sustainability, and development of our people, right? How we treat those people, how we allow them to feel meaningful work, engagement, all these different things. But how is this idea of health and wellness related to human resource development? Well, studies have shown that work and health are inextricably linked, okay? People who feel better, who are healthier, do better at work. And people who are doing better at work and people who feel this positive environment and these positive ramifications of work themselves they're more likely to be healthy, physically, mentally, all of those different things. So one of my colleagues and some of his colleagues as well found that healthy employees are also engaged employees. So the more healthy we are, the more that we're able to find meaning and purpose behind the work that we're doing at our organizations or in our field of study. There's been extensive work that has been done around all of these different things. Employee engagement, my good friend, Dr. Brad Shuck is the #1 employee engagement scholar. He's very well versed in that realm. And then as you see here, scholars have also really engaged with this idea of well-being. But the problem that we're seeing is there's not a big connection between health and wellness and the field of human resource development. There's not a big connection in terms of this idea of employee well-being and this actual term that is engagement, right? How we get people engaged with the programs that are possible. So with that brings the purpose of this study. And as I mentioned, the original purpose of all of this was a consulting opportunity. But the purpose of some of the papers and statistics that we've been working through is twofold. There's two things that we're trying to do specifically. First, we're trying to examine how work and the working experience influences employee decision points around an employee's personal levels of health engagement. So what is driving me to particularly engage with my health, to make health a priority in my life? And then we're trying to empirically explore and support that linkage between work and health and to identify specific variables that might influence individual decision-making. And we did this, we actually, at the start of this research, or kind of as we were really just diving into this project as a whole, we identified through a literature review approximately 9 to 10 variables that have been found to ultimately at least be somewhat tied to health engagement. But here we're really trying to figure out what are these key motivators, right? Of these 10, what are the things that are really going to move that needle forward for our organization, right? If we're looking to invest in our organization and we know we have great wellness offerings, what is it that we need to look at specifically that drives an employee to now choose to engage with it? So just a little bit of background of workplace wellness programs and some things that we found in the literature search. Workplace wellness programs are everywhere, right? You guys have probably seen them at this organization or at organizations that you've worked for, or just organizations that you know through your colleagues or friends and family, right? But this is things like gamified step challenges, weight loss challenges. A lot of organizations offer things like substance abuse programs. One that I haven't included here are mental health hotlines, which we actually saw were very well utilized at this specific organization and very much appreciated, almost at a level much higher than a lot of other offerings. So that was very good to see that there is at least employee awareness that that's there and able to be used. But scholars in their research think of wellness, workplace wellness, as 3 basic areas of health, or there's 3 different things that organizations can be doing, right? There's biometric screenings. So that's things like blood tests and any type of test that will tell us kind of that current standing of what our health is, right? Cholesterol testing, all of that fun stuff. Health risk assessments. So these are like those surveys and those questionnaires where we kind of analyze our specific behaviors or our current behaviors and how that might lead to issues or might lead to positive, healthy lifestyles, either way. And then lastly, wellness activities, right? What are we doing to encourage the behavior and proactive changes in somebody's health? Workplace wellness programs, they've seen a little bit of ambiguity in support from research. Some have been very, very much supporters of it, and some have not seen that much of a change in progress. Backer et al. Found in 2010 that medical costs lower significantly with participation in a corporate sponsored wellness program. So employees are spending a lot less on their medical bills or having a lot less medical and health issues as they are actively participating with these wellness programs. That was later echoed and supported by, I'm going to butcher this name, but Quaylar et al. They found that financial incentives actually do result in some more preventative health visits, which is surprising because especially in the field of engagement and HRD, we are found that financial incentives aren't exactly as beneficial as we thought.
May I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what's the financial incentive? They are paying money to people to go to like doctor visits?
Financial incentives, it can vary. Some of them, they were actually receiving a bonus to participate. Some of it also could be that if they don't participate in these, like if they don't go to a routine checkup or they don't do A, B, and C, there is a certain thing that will be deducted, right? So it was a little bit of both there. And the financial incentives can vary. It can be a lot of an incentive or just a little bit of something, right? But we just thought that was interesting and a pretty cool finding because financial incentives don't have as much pull as we thought in this realm of engagement and participation. They surely are a piece of that puzzle, right? Or a piece of the pie that is engagement, but they don't have as much pull as we traditionally had given financial incentives. On the flip side of things, Fronston and Roebuck actually did not see statistically significant changes in utilization or spending of healthcare by employees who are participating in these corporate sponsored wellness programs. So in addition to us looking at all these different fun things and identifying these variables and hopefully proving beneficial in this consulting role, right? We're also trying to address this ambiguity and see kind of where we're at now and see if we can provide either some more support or lack thereof in this idea of employee wellness programs. So just to give you guys an idea of the sample that we were working with, the host company or the company that we were working with, I can't disclose it, but it is a Fortune 500 multinational logistics company. And our information and our data and basically our interaction with employees comes from 2 geographical sites, one from Columbia, South Carolina, and then the other one in Tempe, Arizona. Both of these sites, the employees that were worked with ranged from lower level employees that were call center employees to management, but particularly they were very similar sites in terms of what is expected of them. They were both call centers. So the primary duty are these people quickly moving through calls and dealing with consumer dissatisfaction, probably more often than satisfaction, right? But they had very similar job capacities and demands. And we got about 206 participants and survey responses. Now, obviously, anybody who's familiar with this world of statistics, we want to clean that up a little bit and make sure that we're not just including every single answer, right? So we did some data cleaning and we set that threshold and it had to have had at least a 50% completion rate. And in all honesty, just a side note, when we were cleaning it, once they got to that 50% response rate, most of them were finishing. That was where we really saw that drop off of participation. But anyways, after data cleaning went through, we had a final number of our sample of 159 participants. And then we did want to look at and use an independent samples t-test to look and see if there was differences, statistically significant differences across the sites for all of these variables. And we did not have statistically significant differences for any of the variables across any of the sites, which was rather interesting, but nonetheless something that we prioritized and worked through in the sample and methodology. Here's one thing that I wish we could have improved, or probably I would say would be a limitation of the research that we were doing. Response rates, the Tempe, Arizona location had 16.3% of their overall employee base respond, or the employees that we reached out to, I should say. And then Columbia had 51.6% reach out. Now, that isn't an indication of how many from each. Tempe was a much larger branch, ultimately still doing the same thing. So, you know, it kind of balances itself out there, but I would say that would be one of the limitations and something that we were trying to work through for sure.
Clay, is it the same company, like both places, both locations?
Yes, exact same company, exact same kind of participant pool and what they're actually their expected roles are at that company. So just to give you guys a couple important terms and definitions, because from the scholarly side, one thing that this research did is we identified and defined 4 new constructs for academia to look into, specifically within the field of wellness and human resource development. We were doing this work through the Center for Health and Organizational Transformation. So that's why you see CHOT here at the end. But one of the things that we utilize is this idea of health engagement. And this is the maintenance, intensity, and direction of effort and energy a person devotes to their personal health, right? So how much effort are they putting forth towards prioritizing health in their daily life? Health meaningfulness. This is the assessment of and attribution towards the value and significance of overall health within a person's life. And then moving forward, health safety is the degree of overall well-being a person was experiencing in the moment regarding their overall health. How safe do they feel moving forwards and moving the needle on their health? And then health resources. This is the degree of and access to routine resources that employees believe they have to invest in their personal health, right? So how much support and what are the resources at my fingertips available for me to engage in my health? So we looked at 6 variables. As I mentioned, we initially had probably, I think it was 9 or 10. Some of the things that we're missing here are mental health levels, financial well-being was something that we also looked at. But as we kind of sorted through and sifted through the ones that moved the needle the most, these were the 6 that kind of came to the forefront and ultimately what made us kind of go through these hypotheses that you'll see here in a second. But health engagement, health meaning, health resources, and health safety. Again, we just went over those. But then we also have 2 additional ones, right? Organizational culture, so what that organization feels like day in and day out, and then employee engagement, their levels of engagement with their job and their role day in and day out. Just want to briefly go over each measure that we used, give it a little bit of background. For health engagement, we used the health engagement CHOT 6. I do have the alpha levels here. Every single one of them demonstrated satisfactory alpha levels for social sciences. This first one is a 6-item instrument to operationalize maintenance, intensity, and direction of effort to their health. Here, a higher, better score means a higher level of engagement with their health. They're more likely and more willing to engage. A sample question from that was, health has a great personal meaning to me. I think that's a typo there, so my apologies. Then we move on to health meaning. Health meaningfulness CHOT 5. 5-item instrument to assess employee perceptions of how meaningful health truly is to them. Again, in similar fashion, that higher total score means that they perceive their health to be much more meaningful to them. My overall health is important to me. It's a sample question from that. Health resources. It's a 5-item instrument to assess employee perceptions of their level of access to health resources. So the higher they scored on this one, the more that they feel supported and that they have the resources around them to support that engagement with their health. So obviously a very simple question that would be an example there is I have the resources I need to be healthy. Health safety, this is assessing the employee perceptions of how safe they feel engaging with their health. Higher total score, of course, means higher perceived safety to engage with their health. One example here would be, I feel like I never have a day off. This pertains to that health safety because what we saw with a lot of people is that they were interested in engaging with their health and they kind of knew that this was a priority, but they didn't think that they had the safety to dedicate some of the time that they've had for work or dedicate some of the time that they have with family or outside obligations to their health, right? So they don't feel safe engaging and allocating resources to their safety or to their health, sorry. Organizational culture, we use the cognitive work appraisal scale. This is an 11-item instrument that assesses the overall culture of an organization. The higher they score, the more positive they deem their organizational culture to be. Example would be, I feel a sense of responsibility to complete my work. And then employee engagement, we use the shortened version, the EES. And that's a 6-item instrument to assess the levels to which employees felt engaged with their work. Obviously, higher level of engagement means a higher total score on that. I'm very focused when I'm working at my job is an example of that measure or a question that would show up on that measure. So through this research, we identified two hypotheses that we wanted to test. And the first one was health meaningfulness, health safety, and health resources would explain statistically significant portions of the variance in overall health engagement. And then the second hypothesis that we were operating off of was employee level perceptions of organizational culture and employee engagement will explain variance in health engagement. So here's the result of that first model, the model that we ran of multiple regression. For this first hypothesis, again, health meaningfulness, safety, and resources would explain statistically significant portions of the variance in overall health engagement. Here we see that we can accept that hypothesis. We have that significant F change is much lower than 0.01. Our adjusted R square of 0.526 is suggesting that 52.6% of the variance in health engagement, so somebody's willingness to engage with their health, comes from the amount of resources that they have, how safe they feel, and that meaning that they attribute to their overall health and well-being. Second, we looked at very similar, the dependent variable, that constant is still health engagement, but we want to take a look at organizational culture and employee engagement and look at that level of variance here. We still accept that hypothesis, although it is less than 0.05 and not 0.01. R square is quite a bit lower. Only 5.2% of that variance in health engagement is explained by employee engagement, organizational culture levels. But certainly, definitely still progress and knowledge towards that final end. This is where I'll stop it. We've been working through this project for about 2 years now, and we've gone through some qualitative work as well. I didn't know how long this would take me or how many questions we would have, but we did see some interesting stuff in the qualitative pieces as well. We worked through that actually just recently, but I'd be happy to get some of your guys' questions or feedback and address those how I can.
Clay, I have two questions, one technical, one non-technical. Technical question is, in your regression, are your estimates of parameters, like the coefficients, are they statistically significant? Like
the R
employee
here?
engagement, organizational cultures, or their coefficients, I think we can't see them here, right? Do we?
Yes, yeah, they were all. I've got. I should have put the correlation table on here
that's
as well.
fine. Just if it's significant, I'm okay.
Yeah, but yes, they were.
Okay, non-technical question is, so what is your overall conclusion from this research? So for a person who is not from the field, so what do you say here as an implication or as a conclusion?
So we found a lot of things. And if I had to give like one, if it was just we're passing by and I had to give you an index card on how to solve this problem, right? Health meaning was one of the biggest things and most positively correlated to health engagement. So in order for us to get people to participate, they have to understand and find meaning in their health, right? I can have all the offerings in the world, and there certainly are other pieces of the puzzle, right? As you've seen, culture and engagement do play a role in this, but health meaning is very, very big. So how we get people to understand that and empathize that health is important is where we're probably going to see the biggest improvement in terms of participation. I'm trying to think of through the qualitative stuff as well.
What would be your recommendation for Rockford University, maybe?
My recommendation for Rockford University? See, I want to do this same study in other organizations because I'm wondering how much this study varies across industries or across organizations in the same industry. Because admittedly, right, I mean, this is my first kind of go at quantitative research. I've been working through qualitative research. My dissertation is in qualitative research. So this is my first experience with this, and I'm wondering what it looks like in different environments. And I wish that I had a little bit more expertise where I could be like, oh, we've done this in higher education, right? What's this look like?
Yeah, that would be very
I think it'd be very, very interesting for sure.
Yep.
Clayton, did you share this information with the organization that you sampled?
Yes, we
did. Did they develop anything in response to this? Did they create an internal metric or KPI that helped them manage their employees' health or judge the engagement of the programs that they offer?
Yeah. So thank you for that's a great question, Paul. Thank you for asking. I don't know at the moment, and here's why. We are actually, this is still very much an ongoing project, and it's ongoing for a couple of different reasons. This quantitative work was the first piece of the pie that we attacked here. Then we went through the qualitative work, and we actually just within the last, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, had our kind of final circle back with the organization at the end of this cycle of our consulting role, where we basically gave them our recommendations. So we provided site-specific recommendations as well as just organization-specific, like comprehensive suggestions. And I believe we're going to be working with this organization again for I believe it's a 3rd year. And that's where we're really probably going to find out, okay, what did you do and how can we now move forward to understanding the impact that it had? Because we've just now gotten to the point where we offered those recommendations. So where, hey, this research has shown us this, and we've kind of identified these couple things. Let's work towards this. So I'd be interested to see how it plans out, but I don't yet have that information.
Any other questions, guys?
I had a question. Could you go back to the first regression that you ran in the first hypothesis? Yeah. Did you have any idea or like predictions on whether like health resources, health safety, or health meaning would have like larger effects on their overall health engagement?
Man, I should have pulled that up. The health meaning was the most impactful, at least within this sample. I don't know between resources and safety, which one of those kind of moved to the forefront. But those 3 in our initial kind of consultation seem to be the 3 that popped up. I don't know the specifics. I bet I have it somewhere. I have this. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, it seemed like health meaning seems more of a person characteristic versus like their access to resources or whether or not they feel safe. Maybe the health safety is a person level thing too.
Yeah, and that's why this kind of turned interesting even in the initial start, right? Because it feels like health resources and health safety is something that an organization can improve upon much easier, right? Like giving resources to my employees is something that I can do. You know, providing them a safe platform or hey, I'm encouraging this. You will not be punished for taking an hour to go do this, right? That's all stuff that we can quickly think of how to solve. But this idea of health meaning, right? How do I as an organization partner with you, Christian? Like, how do I go to you as one of my employees and say, hey, listen, where does health play into your life meaning, right? What value do you attribute to your health? And how do I as an organization work through that, right? And so that's why this got kind of interesting, because initially we were thinking, just, is it financial well-being? Is it their safety? Is it resources? These were kind of the things that you quickly think of, and health meaning quickly kind of emerged to the forefront there.
Yeah, I was curious, like how much of this would be changing the access to the resources versus changing the employees' perception of it, like trying to make them care, I guess.
Yeah, and I eventually wanted to, and I don't know if this is where this will go. We'll see. It's been pretty hectic, but I want to look at each of these variables in the same way that we looked at health engagement, because health engagement was the dependent variable basically at the request of the organization, right? That's why we were here initially, and that's how we were solving some of these problems or attempting to. But I think it would be super valuable to now put health meaning as that dependent variable and see how it's influenced by the rest of these. And that was actually one of the implications for research in one of the papers that we're submitting is, okay, we know health meaning is like critically important. It's super vital to getting employees to engage with their health. But now we know that, how do we actually move the needle on health meaning, right? We know health meaning moves the needle on health engagement, but if you don't know how to move the needle on health meaning, you can no longer move that needle, right?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think this is connected to, for example, diversity, equity, and inclusion? How do you think it would benefit diversity and inclusion in a work space, right?
Yeah.
And also, do you think, or do you know, or you have any information about any similar project now or in the future at Rockford University?
So your first question is actually very interesting, because that is something that we suggested based off of our qualitative responses because we conducted focus groups after this. And one of the things that we saw was the employees were scared to branch out. They said, hey, listen, like, yeah, like I would participate, but among some of the problems that I might have, I'm nervous. I don't want to go forward. I don't know anybody. And so I don't remember the author, but we used it to support our recommendation. But research has shown that when you prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in wellness programs, so when there's diversity, when there's a diverse group of people participating in a specific wellness program, people are more likely to follow and want to engage with that, right? There's more of a chance that I see somebody like me. I see somebody, either whether it's my role or we have a base employee, then middle management, and then the CEO in the same room. So like diverse in that respect, but also cultures, right? It makes me more willing and more comfortable to engage with it. So that was one of the things that we suggested, is say, hey, listen, we talked to them about having people that champion this change or champion their wellness programs. And we said, you need to have a diverse group of people that champion this change. Because if you just have a CEO or an upper level management championing it, yeah, that's well and good that they have somebody up front saying, hey, this is good, we're supporting this. But the more that you can promote that diversity, equity, inclusion in that wellness program, the more you're going to see participation. In terms of bringing this here, I'll have to chat with my colleagues and see what they think. But I think it'd be great.
Well, I will just tell you that there is a new committee, and is supposedly a very important committee, at least for the next year. And the name of the committee is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. In case you want to reach out the provost or anyone who is part of the committee. And I think this would be a good fit and a good program for this committee to have in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
And so, this is actually kind of my job. Why I'm asking about this explicitly is, we don't measure enough things here at Erdem. Mm-hmm. I'll say that to anybody.
Sure.
If we don't measure, we don't manage. My curiosity is how do we actually, in a modern era, put a metric to something like this? 20 years ago, we would have just said, well, how many sick days do people take?
Yeah.
And to your research, just what you just said, that example, I can't take a sick day. That doesn't mean that just because someone doesn't take a sick day, doesn't mean they're not sick. And doesn't mean that attitude isn't coming to the job and all those things. One of the challenges here at RU, and especially in this contemporary era, is sick days are actually kind of not even a measurement at all, because of the diversity of which people go to work. Faculty, some of you don't have to go home, don't have to come in to do. You have variable work schedule. So if you're feeling sick right now, lie down, 5 hours later, go back to work. How is it that we promote here at RU a healthy organization, or an organization that values health, not only in faculty and staff, but as we were talking about here, how is it that we also promote it amongst our students, so that they feel engaged in their work? And that's complex, and that's not easy. But on the other hand, if I'm not trying to put a metric to it that I can put in front of the board and saying, hey, other than surveys, it becomes very difficult to actually address it. So that's one of the things that interests me about your work. Unfortunately, the regression isn't something I can just take to the board and say, here, look. But it's really interesting to me. And, as I'm trying to work about something in the HR field, how is it that we show not only the without violating any confidences, how do I show the level of which RU staff and faculty are engaged? We have many of these sort of programs, and you're right, we don't have anything to show that we're promoting them or using them.
Yep.
And that's eventually, even though we say, yeah, we do offer mental health services, how do I have a sense that by and large our staff is mentally healthy?
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting problem to solve, and admittedly, I don't think I really have an answer on what those specifics look like. I suppose that would probably be in the near future for these next steps, right? But it's an interesting problem to solve or to attempt to solve, because also the thing that we have to think about is, yes, my organization is putting in all this effort, but how do you provide a metric for that when sometimes my organization might have supported me and I might be prioritizing my health outside of their corporate wellness programs, right? So sure, I'm not participating in your program. I'm not specifically using the resources that you gave me, but the culture that you fostered and the things that you've said to me or the support that you've provided have driven me to become a more health conscious individual. So also, how do we bring something like that in where we don't have that direct sick days, participation percentage, healthcare expenditures, right? Like if somebody's going on a run more often than not, if somebody made a health conscious choice to eat better because of the efforts that Rockford University did or that this organization did, it's like, how do you include that too? So it's how do we get a truly accurate depiction of where these efforts have taken us?
Another aspect, Paul, probably is, for example, Rockford University, I have been working here for maybe 6 years. So Rockford University has these kind of similar programs, and probably, even though it seems that it's free, it's not. So Rockford University is paying something to those programs. And if the engagement is 20%, which I believe may be even lower, but it's a cost to the university. So the university is paying something, and like 80% of the people are not using it, meaning that it's a waste of resource on the other side for the university. So either like make people engaged or maybe just eliminate some of those costs to the university, right? Of course, you have to measure it.
Yeah, I have to measure it. That's my point. Is there's no measurement here, and the sophistication in which we're understanding these things, it's not easy to measure. But if you don't measure it, it's not going to get managed.
Yeah, it's as if there are like 100 photocopy machines around and nobody uses those machines. But you don't know how many machines do you have.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for your time and your questions and your attention. I'm very happy to share this stuff with you guys. I can share this presentation if you want it. I can keep you also our article is in review right now, but I'll keep you guys posted on where that's going and all that fun stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Clay, and thank you everyone for joining us. Next Brownback seminar is going to be on October 17th, which is going to be on Monday at 3 p.m. We are going to announce that soon. Hope to see you there too. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.